morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are with this special episode of APIM Hotrod. How are you guys, gentlemen?
Fine, thank you, Massimo. Happy to be part of this show, as usual.
Yeah. So today we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Azure API Management, and we have some very, very special guests in this call. So it would be nice to introduce yourself, gentlemen.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, maybe Vlad, and then we'll introduce.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, maybe you'll start since you're in the studio.
Okay, so my name is Tom Karkova. I'm Senior Software Engineer on Azure API Management here in Belgium, and I work on the gateway.
Max?
Good. Yeah, for us, I think it's okay, Vlad, because we run the show usually, so that should be okay. But maybe Maxim or Vlad, any of you, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Maxim Kim. I go by Max. I'm the engineering lead for API management data plane, which we call gateway, and the infrastructure teams.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here, Maxim.
Yeah, thank you. Vlad?
I'm Vlad Vinogradsky. I lead product management for API management at Microsoft, and I'm based in Seattle.
Thanks.
That's great. So let's start the show. This is a celebration of 10 years of Azure API Management. So in September 2014, so 10 years ago, Azure API Management went GA. So the first question that we would like to discuss with you, with this group, is like how the service has evolved over the past decades. So if you can, for example, share some numbers of how the team evolved, how the service evolved, that would be nice for the audience.
Cool. So, I mean, just one kind of explanation. It's 7 a.m. here in Seattle. So we are super excited. Maybe we don't look that, but we're doing our best. It's 7 a.m. So yeah, exactly on this day, 10 years ago, API management service went GA, generally available. It launched in May and in preview, today is essentially the official anniversary of this service being available for customers to use in production. So I think that we launched with 2 tiers, standard and developer. Then we kind of slowly expanded the set of tiers. We added premium with a bunch of enterprise features, which is sort of our sort of, we think of it as a hero tier or sort of the most valuable tier for customers. Then we added, I believe, basic or consumption. So we extended the API management capabilities to broader audiences as well. We added capabilities like self-hosted gateway for hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. So that was, a significant piece of work that Maxim was intimately involved in, which worked really well. And we have, some large customers using that capability. And, in general, this is a very valuable capability for enterprise customers who, traditionally have very complicated cross-cloud, cross-on-prem deployments. Recent stuff you guys probably on this show very well aware of. We released some new generation SKUs, V2 SKUs, especially for standard, where we added private connectivity, which was a standing sort of ask from customers for a while. Obviously Gen AI is extremely popular. A lot of customers are sort of trying to integrate AI into their business applications and business processes. So we added a bunch of capabilities for managing those kinds of APIs. There's a shift now from kind of centralized, API management to what we call federated model of API management, and we introduced a capability called workspaces, which we can talk about later. So API Center is a new service that we launched, which is completely separate but complementary to API management, and it provides customers the ability to track APIs in the organization across multiple API management instances from Microsoft, that reside in the solutions from Microsoft, like API management and the competitor solutions, as well as just APIs that are not managed. So that's kind of the arc overall. In terms of, obviously when the company was acquired by Microsoft in 2013, I think we had probably around a dozen, I would say, or so paying customers. And some of them, actually, I think a couple are still, on the platform out of that 12. But of course, basically we started from zero, right? When we launched, there was, we were a brand new service. And it was actually quite interesting to kind of grow with Azure, right? Azure was quite nascent in 2014 as well. And, we kind of grew with Azure as well. And now we are happy to report, right, that the service is, I would say probably the most used API management service across all sort of API management offerings on the market. We have, a number of customers that is measured in tens of thousands. Last, I think, couple of months, we were exceeding 2 trillion requests in total across all customers every month. So that's a pretty staggering number if you think about it. We are quickly closing on 2 million APIs under management for, again, across all customers. So it's gives you sort of an idea of the size of the service. And of course, we are sort of a worldwide service at this point, very widely deployed, pretty much all public and sovereign regions, including mainland China. We have customers pretty much in every industry, basically very happy with the results. And the best part of it is that it's not the end; it's just the beginning, and we still continue to grow at a pretty rapid pace. And we have a lot of plans to where to take the service in the future. So things are looking really well.
And for example, from a team point of view, what was the evolution? So you might start with 5 people, now you have 35 or something like this. How did it goes over the years?
That's a great question. So I think it was quite an evolution too, and it also again mirrors evolution of Azure and Microsoft in general. So it all started as essentially Redmond, Seattle-centric team, where pretty much everyone was in one place in Seattle, in the same office, right? Literally in the same room. And over time, obviously, as team expanded and as remote and hybrid sort of work became more adopted, especially at Microsoft, now we have essentially a team that is geographically distributed. So we have people all over the world working on API management. From my PM team, which is, I think at this point, including me, is like about maybe a handful, 7 people, something like that. But only 2 are in Redmond. Everybody else is remote. And similar on engineering side, I think probably, I would say 2/3, maybe close to 2/3 of the team is outside of Redmond. We have some developers working from various places in the United States, from Europe, from Asia, so everywhere. So, that's kind of very interesting transition that we're still navigating. But of course, it allows us to, be more flexible in terms of time zone coverage and, all other benefits of kind of remote work, getting talent everywhere, right? Not being constrained. So that's the team.
So maybe I have also a question. So with regards to the scale, because it really grew, maybe not in an exponential way, but let's say it really grew significantly from the beginning. So isn't that then also more challenging? I mean, to bring new features, or you see what I mean? So the fact that maybe you started small and then with a smaller customer base, of course, and now it's actually quite a huge service. So is that something that you see? Of course, it's a good opportunities, but is that also challenging to bring new features, or actually not really? See,
You mean you have such a
scale.
big customer
Yeah.
base, so it's difficult to add new features because you have to be compatible, backward compatible.
Let's
That's
say
what you.
the risk to introduce a bug or the risk to introduce a disruptive change is of course maybe bigger with such a customer base. So I know, is that like challenging, or you don't really see it this way, or it's actually fine because you have obvious, let's say, ways of deploying stuff, magic stick maybe. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I heard somebody was going to say something.
Yeah. Tom also has something, but Vlad, I don't know. Tom,
Yeah,
you want
or maybe
yeah.
Max. I don't know. I was just going to say that I've only joined 3 years ago, but from what I can see now, we have a lot of services. So if you roll something out, you need to make sure that basically quality is very important, because if you break something, you have the potential of breaking, like Vlad said, tens of thousands of customers.
Yeah.
So that's why we have a lot of tests. We have a lot of rings we go through to make sure that we don't break customers. Because if we break customers, hopefully we don't break everybody in that ring, because it's a lot of customers. While I think maybe in the earlier days, that risk was lower, so you were able to go a lot faster because the risk was lower.
Yeah. Because that's impressive. I don't know that if you or anyone else wants to add something, but that's what impressed me in general, not only of course with APIM, but with Microsoft, the scale, to see that indeed actually you don't break too much, let's say, too often. So that's quite impressive. But so I wanted to see a bit from the inside if that was really something that you still perceive yourself, or actually maybe not anymore. But yeah. So if you want
I think we all want to go fast. We just want to make sure we don't
You
break
don't break
customers.
anything, yeah.
So that's why sometimes customers want to use the new features we announce, but they're not rolled out yet to the regions where their services are running, because we take time to roll things out to not have a big blast radius, basically.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah, I think, one more thing, of course, is that we're always making investments to make the infrastructure more reliable, to make the release rollout more reliable for customers and faster. So it's a constant area of investment to make sure that any bugs, are detected earlier, that they are mitigated earlier, and that new features are rolled out sooner to all the customers. And in fact, one of the features that's coming up in the next few months, customers will be able to select sort of the release channel they're on. So if they want to receive, the latest, greatest, features that release as it rolls out, being the first batches of services to be upgraded, they will be able to select that. Similarly, if they want to be on the last batch of services to be upgraded, they can also select that for maybe mission critical workloads.
Yeah.
So there is
That's
no
great.
of different
And would it be like a subscription level enablement? You see what I mean, or is that like for tenants?
per service, per API management service.
Per service. Okay.
So you can have two services even, right? Your test service can be on that soonest to be upgraded batch, and the other service can be on that
That's
stable,
nice.
stable channel.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, great stuff. And Maxime, I understood that you are there since the day one in the API management engineering team, and I was wondering, according to you, what were the key moment or the memorable milestones according to you. So in your in this 10-year story with Azure API management.
Yeah, it's not much opportunity to reflect actually on this work.
Just
because
work.
yeah, super busy. But now while we were speaking, I recalled a couple of moments. Like at the very beginning, we had every new service. It's a funny story. We have a person from our team actually calling the customer over the phone and telling them your API management service is ready. Then later we had a physical bell, in our meeting room, and have some automation that every time new service is created, by that moment it was already automated. Every time new API management service was created, this bell was ringing. you know. So the whole team was aware, and obviously everybody was going to office. The whole team was aware there is a new API management service. And now just, you know, Vlad or Mike once in a while just tell us how many more thousand more services we have. So that kind of illustrates the scale. Yeah. Also, again, at the very beginning, we were a small team and mostly focused on what new things, new value we can bring to customers. And, you know, delivering that was, you know, very kind of background activity. Single person could do it. Nowadays, with this scale, you know, being able to deliver changes safely and reliably is a whole separate engineering challenge, and we had to invent a lot of, you know, smartness and automation and build processes just to be able to do it. Like, putting aside what does it take to implement things, shipping things is a whole separate challenge. So yeah, obviously very challenging technical problems, but also very interesting, you know, problem space, I would say.
And I think Max, even understanding the product, how to implement that change is much more complex nowadays, right? There's so many different components, so many different edge cases.
Correct. Yeah. Over time, complexity grows, obviously, and you know, keeping this complexity under control is also separate.
Maybe that's a good example, because I'm pretty sure Max still knows like 90%, but basically joining the team last half of the decade or later, that's a big difference. Like, the team in Redmond has all these context, but the people joining since in the other locations need to kind of get the information from their brain, because there's so much information that they have because of all the years that we kind of need to catch up, because they implemented every single feature because there were just a handful of people. Now we have a lot more people and a lot more locations, so knowledge sharing is like even more important than ever.
Yep. That's nice, Massimo.
Definitely nice. So that, again, I'm happy. I mean, it's a really nice, the story of the bell. I'm sure I remember that one. I was one of the first ones. So 10 years ago, that I was just annoying you a bit. I think we still have an instance of API management that we created 10 years ago.
Is it on STV1 or STV2?
No, now we have to move to STV2. That's for sure.
Okay, then it's okay.
That's
Okay,
right. I think, you know, I actually checked. You created an instance exactly on the 10th of September 2014. And it was developer tier, and it's still around.
Yes, we in 2014, I mean, end of 2013, it was the boom in the market, was a boom of API management. So, I mean, without mentioning the competition at that time, but there were a lot of different companies that are not existing anymore in the market, that has been acquired by biggest competitors, hyperscaler today. So we were really focused, and our attention was on API management at that time, and then it grew and grew over time. So now, because I said the things about marketing, it will be the market evolution. It would be also nice to spend some time, to have your point about how the API management or API market evolved over the years, from maybe a central enterprise or departmental gateway. I don't know if it was clear enough. Some years ago, it was a trend topic. Then the microservices, for example, wave, and today the AI wave. So how do you see the market evolution over the years?
Trends, if you see any future trends already on the API market in general, that would then be something that you would welcome. Would be interesting to
have. Sure. But can you guys hear me? I hear some echo coming.
Yeah. Yes, there is an echo suddenly.
Yep. Just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, market, interesting. So Microsoft actually, was quite visionary in adding API management to the platform. It was the first hyperscaler to do that by, probably at least 1 or 2 year margin. which was great, definitely. Now, if you look at the landscape back then, I'm quite pleased to hear you guys were sort of very focused on API management in 2014. But honestly, I think at that point, actually, the market was quite mature in that respect. And even though there was a bunch of API management solutions on the market, there were sort of not a lot of customers, right, using API management. And every conversation about the service, we have to basically motivate, right? We will have to explain, APIs are important, and here are the problems that you deal with when you expose APIs, and this is why API management is important. So lots of conversation like that. Nowadays, we don't have to talk about any of that, right? People want to know your roadmap, your features. Would it work in this scenario, that scenario? It's pretty much kind of well accepted. That APIs have to be managed, right? So especially in the enterprise space. So quite a change, right? And we kind of witness how people, so how customers kind of matured in their understanding of what API management is and what things they want from API management as well. So that actually puts more pressure on us to deliver a better and more full-featured product than ever before, because customers are growing in their needs. APIs are getting ever more important, etc. There was a lot of consolidation in the market, right? And you probably know all the sort of. I'm not gonna kind of tell you all the names, but there was a lot of companies. At the time when Azure API management sort of was founded. None of these companies are actually exist as independent entities anymore. So there was a lot of consolidation.
Let's do some names: APG, Treescale, and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So all of these basically sometimes were acquired and integrated and divested, multiple times, right? So every hyperscaler now has at least one API management solution. Sometimes it's more than one. We have a bunch of new and exciting entrants into the space. So it's a pretty dynamic market, still, right? Regardless of the fact that it's been around for quite a while. Moreover, integration, right? Enterprise integration space changed and evolved significantly. And a lot of integration companies now are actually API first companies, which, added API management as part of their companies and even leading, their solutions with API based integration. So that market was affected as well. So that's sort of as far as what's going on in the market. In terms of trends, I'd say the things that we are focusing on and the thing that we hear from customers they're struggling with is migration to federated management of APIs. And Mike can talk at length about it because he's sort of been working on that for quite some time now. The other, sort of struggle that customers have is API sprawl. Getting them under control, increasing ROI on APIs by basically making them discoverable, making them consistent, improving their quality. Security is always a huge concern, and even more so now. And this is where we essentially partnering, inside Microsoft with teams like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which built a wonderful product called Defender for APIs, which is, we think is essential for enterprises to provide, another layer of security assessment as well as detection of attacks on APIs. Of course, AI is a big deal, right? Right now there is sort of people going back and forth on that, but in my mind it's transformational. We don't know how it's gonna pan out yet, but we know it's going to be big, and we know that it's going to be good for APIs, and therefore it will be good for API management. I firmly believe that because to start with, AI is exposed as APIs, right? So as an API, it has to be managed. And the other thing is for intelligent applications or LLMs to do anything useful, they have to call APIs, right? Which again, so like that can be bad, right? For APIs, I think that would be a huge change there, and will elevate the importance of API management, securing APIs, and things that tracking, monitoring. So all the things that API management solutions are good at. So these, I think, would be the top trends that I see. Mike, Max, you guys want to add anything?
No, I agree. In general, this space, even though it's quite mature and established, it is actually evolving quite rapidly because of the nature of APIs. So they integrate different systems and services, and there are the communication protocol. And with that, a lot of new cases always pop up. So there are, trends that are like, I would say, everlasting. Like, for example, productization of APIs always evolves. So customers want to productize APIs. So does security, etc. But new use cases pop up, so we constantly keep an eye out for those new use cases and new scenarios to help customers innovate with APIs.
And while we have new use cases, one important thing to keep over time is the reliability, is the security, but also what I found extremely important is the observability, right? So emitting every time new metrics create whatever aggregation or presentation layer you want to make sure that we are in control of our APIs, right? You said, Vlad, that over time, there is one constant in this year. So APIs are a building block for a lot of different solutions. They are serving different use cases, and those APIs, they have to be managed, right? Managed means also first the governance you were mentioning, the API sprawl, but also like the analytics to keep under control the usage and prevent misusage, like the example of Defender for APIs.
Yeah, maybe we could focus a bit on the federated case, right?
My customer loves it. They're really excited.
So Mike has something to share, it seems, about it. So maybe, if that's fine, Mike, to tell us more about this.
Right. So, I don't know where to start. There's a free model to manage APIs in that we call distinctly. The first model is the centralized API management model. In the centralized API management model, you have a single API management service that's shared by multiple teams without any isolation of control plane or runtime. And what happens now, you have ease of use because it's just a single service. You have ease of governance where the platform team sort of helps that can oversee and enforce and monitor all the APIs, and enforce policies, enforce compliance, etc. But due to the lack of isolation, teams run into conflicts with each other while publishing and developing their APIs and productizing those APIs. And those issues could be in the control plane or in the data plane, right? So the control plane, you can take a dependency on other teams' resources, and they change because they didn't know that. So your APIs break. And in the runtime plane, what may happen is that, for example, one team's API can cause resource starvation on the whole gateway that's shared by all the teams. So effectively, the gateway is the single point of failure for all APIs in the organization. And that resource starvation, just caused by one team, by one API, may affect and cause an outage for all of the APIs in the organization. The sort of opposite of that is the siloed API management model, where each API team has their own API management service to publish and develop and productize their APIs in. So in that, you get the full isolation of control plane and the full isolation of data plane. But that comes at a cost. And the cost is that you have to now maintain 10, 20, 50 API management services in production, right? So even more across all environments. And it's really hard to enforce any sort of governance, compliance, observability, unified developer portal. It's really hard to implement these things across a fleet of ever proliferating API management services, not to mention also proliferating costs of the deployment model and infrastructure. So the federated API management model is, it combines the benefits of those two models without their downsides. So within a single API management service, you can onboard multiple teams and provide them with control plane and data plane isolation, while still allowing for that easy enforcement of compliance with policies, unified monitoring for the platform, a unified developer portal because it's a simple API management service. And the workspaces serve that purpose in API management. So we released GA of workspaces a month ago. There is a public blog post announcement. Please take a look if you haven't seen it yet. We do call out, some of the use cases for workspaces. We call out the benefits of workspaces, and we also call out the roadmap, which hopefully will also enable using workspaces for more scenarios and by more customers in the next few months. But essentially, workspace enabled that federated API engine model, and the benefit to the customer is, of course, faster pace of innovation, less resources spent managing the infrastructure, etc., because we federate API management to the teams who own the API. So there's fewer bottlenecks in the organization, so the pace of innovation accelerates.
So if I get it right, so there is this multi-tenancy at the control plane, and then the multi-tenancy also on the data plane. So I'm wondering, maybe without going too much technical, there is this, do you also, so I have multiple tenants, so within a company, I can have a department A, B, and C to work independently on their API management, let's say, strategy. And the question is like, okay, will this team be fully autonomous, or there will be a platform layer that has to be added on top of it? For example, let's make it simple. Suppose that I want a domain name or a certificate. So there will be always a layer that is done by platform, and then on top of these layers, the different teams will plug into?
Well, as a customer, you have options. So you have options to decide who does what. So the platform team, their role might be as simple as just create a workspace for the API team to use. And if the API team is proficient enough to manage the gateway infrastructure, you now have that option to give them, the way to manage their own gateway. That's the benefit of workspaces. But if the team doesn't have that proficiency, you can manage that gateway yourself as the platform team. In the future, we'll also enable the ability to share the API management gateway across multiple workspaces by multiple workspaces. And that will come, of course, with more responsibilities on the platform team, because now if it's shared across multiple API teams, there needs to be a central platform team who manages that infrastructure.
That will bring a challenge from a governance, right? What we were talking about before, not only API sprawl, but also like control, to have this uniformity between, if you want, between workspaces and...
that could bring back some noisy neighbors. So you need indeed a body that can evaluate if it makes sense to regroup some of these smaller departments into one, let's say, gateway. Yeah, that's indeed.
It's super interesting with the use cases that we have. Pardon, go ahead.
You have this. It's sometimes, I would say, a factor like whether you want to optimize the cost or whether you want to optimize the engineering excellence and reliability. I don't want to hijack the conversation. We have a 10-year anniversary episode. We don't need to talk about workspaces in detail.
But we end up on workspaces because I believe it's a big deal. It's really a big deal for enterprises. I remember tomorrow I'm in Netherlands to a wonderful Azure event talking about again API and API sprawls. And he remembers me that I was to this customer around 7-8 years ago, and we were talking about this kind of scenario, so dividing, having multiple teams collaborating in different API initiatives. At that time, it was all about strict governance and automation. But now, these workspaces will give freedom to people and control internally.
Basically, you will decide up to when you want to delegate or not, but the possibility is there.
The runtime isolation is a big, in my opinion, a big change, because in the past, you sometimes have critical apps and then secondary apps, but there was no isolation. And I had customers before I joined that were worried if this secondary app has a bug or a noisy customer, it could impact this critical app. But now they can basically say, let's create a workspace for all these apps, or a workspace per app, and then have a dedicated gateway runtime just for the critical one. Also lock down the permissions, because nobody should have access to change it And I believe personally, this is a big change.
It's actually from a compute, we could make an analogy with the app service plans, right? Where you basically can regroup some apps, maybe low critical apps on one plan, maybe the high critical ones or mission critical, they have the dedicated plan. You see, you could have that kind of analogy that you could do with the workspace compute.
And also down the road, what it will also enable is maybe original deployments, meaning that if you want to isolate, for example, 2 different regions within an API management service, you can do that. It's not supported yet, but that's something that will come down the road as well with workspaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So, and Mike, and what was your memorable moment if you go back in time? So, what is stick to your mind? What it make you proud?
Well, definitely, one memorable moment was when I joined the team. So I wasn't on the team from the start. I think I joined around 20, I don't even remember, 19 maybe, 18. I don't remember, a few years ago. So that was quite memorable. Everything was new to me at that time. I did come from other parts of Azure and actually also came from the engineering background, software engineering background. So that was a memorable experience. And I would say the most memorable thing about being from the API management team is seeing that evolution. So not one thing that we delivered or that we solved one problem, because problems don't appear every day. We do also solve problems every day. But seeing that progression from a team where everyone sits like, we talked about it in the room, and we just, shout over the desk if you have a question, to having a global team distributed across, previously 5 different time zones, and navigating that scale of customers and shifting all the practices, not only engineering but also product management practices, and also adding more roles to our team. So not just product managers and software engineers, but now we also have designers, we have customer researchers, we have people that help us with supportability and escalations. So the team also grew in terms of different roles to feel like the niche responsibilities on the team that we did not have before. And some people had to wear multiple hats to just serve these roles. Like designs were done by PMs at the start, even if the PMs did not have really any design experience. So that's, and I think I'm excited to see what's coming next. We are still growing. We are still growing rapidly.
We are good with time. So I was thinking, Maxime, so according to you, what is, for example, the hidden gem of the product, or if you wanted, what is your favorite features? What it excites you?
Thanks for the question. After 10 years, it's really hard to choose one. I would say, self-hosted gateway maybe something that, not super kind of, demanded, but, if you think about it, it's an ability to bring all the features, or most of them, of our managed offering to your to your own compute, to your own cluster or whatever. So that was when I remember, that was very kind of interesting work to take the technology that we over years we were working to run at scale in the cloud, in the infrastructure that we control, to be able to package it in container and run on customers' Linux box. That was at the same time keep it connected to the cloud, to be able to enable and to allow customer to control all the features, but all the traffic processing happens on their own compute. So that was the whole idea. To me, was quite exciting, and obviously, we had a lot of fun working on
Guys,
it.
I think I know, but I have to ask it. I know this is bring back memory. What was the code name of the self-hosted gateway?
I think it was Sputnik, which is kind of Soviet term for satellite. And the whole idea was it's a satellite to the mothership or whatever.
I still remember when I was running it for the first time. You have this GIF. How do you call it? Git art.
The ASCII art.
ASCII art. Yeah.
ASCII art, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a space vibe to it.
Yes, lovely.
Yeah, we still have the test service in our subscription, which is called API Management, I think, self-hosted mothership, which was used to connect these self-hosted gateways to run the tests. That's still
We might or might not have customers running it in the space. Can you disclose?
would be nice.
No, but I also like it to run the fact that it's containerized and there is that certain amount of features. I like to run it on container apps when you divide as a sort of gate, of course, gateway or ingress if you want. When I isolate processes that are internal on Azure Container Apps from the entry point, aggregating entry point with a self-hosted gateway, I love it.
Yeah, I used to use this before I joined as well. Not ingress as the usual, but also the typical app-to-app communication is a very underrated. And if you run apps on Kubernetes, the self-hosted gateway is a good proxy in the middle to decouple these apps and have a fast rate limiting, which I think is a very good use case for container apps as well.
No, indeed, that's actually even how I use it the most. Actually, that's funny because indeed you don't have so many options, right? If you want to have like token validation and so on, you can have service meshes, but it's typically a harder user experience, or developer experience, than with the self-hosted gateway, where it's actually quite easy. I mean, when you see the policies, if you compare how to do JWT validation with Istio and do that with API management, I mean, it's much easier with API management than with Istio. So that's indeed up-to-up scenario is a very good use case within the cluster. Yeah, so
Yeah. So another, if we have time, unrelated kind of thing that keeps me excited is that 10 years is a long time, right? And when new product starts, usually the team is kind of entrepreneurish. There is startup-y vibe to it. People want to do new stuff. It's very easy to do new things while product is pretty small. But over time, when the product matures and the team grows and customer base grows, things tend to slow down because we want to be more careful, run kind of slowly. Reliability is a big factor here, and kind of all the processes pivot around these concerns. But what I like about this team is we still have this capability to get together and have a small focused effort and come up with a really great new additions to the product, even now when the scale is huge and the customer base is huge, and this is one of the big services in Azure. And one example is Gen AI. I really like how we have a small kind of V team, very focused effort, and came up with this great set of new features in a relatively short time frame.
Yeah, very short.
Yeah, actually, really on time. Let's say with the evolution of the Gen AI wave. Let's say, that's nice. Huh? Indeed.
And everybody who, I guess, any engineer or product manager who worked in the really product that was out there for a long time know how hard it might be to add some changes to the existing product with 10 years or more.
Yeah, especially 10 years. It's really huge. I mean, in terms of
a lot
IT,
of legacy.
It's because you of course always have a lot of legacy. Whatever product, 10 years, it's just old actually.
Yeah,
so, but it doesn't look old.
And the infrastructure per se change a lot. So the product evolves and the infrastructure behind. That's a challenge as well.
Not only infrastructure, like the gateway is written in .NET. Everything's written in .NET. That's a lot of
you also
versions
need to
that have been released. Which is also a challenge.
Yeah, because 10 years ago it was what .NET 2 still, or so basically, you had a lot
older version than
versions
today.
in between.
4. something.
Sure.
Okay.
And it was already 4. Okay, that was 15 years ago. Okay.
I do have here in my backpack a question from the community. So if you don't mind. So today, when we look at the traffic that is flying through the gateway, so we have analytics in terms of capacity, analytics about usage of a specific API and operation, etc., etc. Another interesting thing is the user from a user point of view, like we are using subscription key to split the usage by subscription key, so to create that visibility. But a lot of times customers are using JOT token, and the question is, would be nice to have these analytics split by a claim, for example, instead of a subscription key. It's something in addition, not to replace a subscription key. Is it something that is on your radar to have analytics by JOT token?
This is a question for our PMs.
Yeah, I mean, that's so. Isn't that something that you can already do using tracing policy to edit essentially?
I guess the question is how do we use the existing analytics capability with our new workbook, but instead of building it on top of subscriptions, can we get the same through JOTs and claims?
Well, I think that's a separate question, right? I think right now it's just a question of how do you, create a dimension around some claim or some component of JOT token, right?
Yes, exactly. So technically it is possible, as you said, Vlad. So with the trace policy, you can just trace the claim that you are interested in, and you build your own out of your own workbook or your own report, call it as you want. So in general, it's like is it something that stays at the customer to develop this kind of view, or it will be an out of the box view? Let's say
yeah. The question was more, okay, could it be brought, let's say, built in, that you don't have to make any effort and you would just have it out of the box, let's say?
Well, I mean, it's very hard to kind of talk about this in general, right? Because at the end of the day, as long, like if we don't know a priori, right, what specific claims customers might want to aggregate by. So, do we, create dimensions for all of them, right? Like, how do we choose? So like, I think, going to Tom's point, right? He sort of took a different perspective by saying, today we have subscription keys, and then we have JOT tokens, and subscription keys kind of, we have aggregation naturally around that. Should we do the same for JOT tokens, where essentially it acts like subscription key, right, in terms of identifying product, etc. And that is definitely something that we are looking to do, and in fact, hopefully in not too distant future. And as part of that, we will have a think about how can we then create maybe some reasonable out-of-the-box aggregation. But at the end of the day, right, every customer has different requirements, and for some of them, they will have to do something like tracing, additional component, and then creating a report on that.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, like the beauty of kind of log analytics, right? That and sort of programmable gateway that we have, that customers can relatively easily implement, any kind of use case they have in mind in terms of creating the customer report, right?
Yeah, indeed. So, Vlad, I'm not sure. I think you had like a hard stop at some point.
Yes, I will have to run in a few minutes. So that's, thanks for inviting me to this podcast and the team. And it was really a pleasure to talk to you guys this morning, and to start off, a great day with such a pleasant experience.
So first of all, congratulations for these 10 years. So and thank you for joining this show, this episode.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a nice day then.
So Vlad, okay, we are still this group. So I think we have time for still a couple of questions. I would say,
minutes, if you're still available, guys.
Yeah.
And then we close it.
Yeah, I have to run as well. If there's only one question, I can stay, but I do have to run in just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Do you have any question, Massimo?
Oh,
I let you ask.
Now's the
I let you-
time.
I always have question. It's just okay. So like just your opinion. We talk a little bit about developer portal. So if I look 10 years ago and right now, but maybe it's just only my experience or the feedback that I get with my type of customer these days. So the developer portal was more a things years ago, and these days people are more focusing on other kind of functionalities. Do you have still a lot of? Do you feel the same? Do you still have a lot of questions and requests around developer portals, or is something that is less relevant these days?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think customers' understanding of developer portal evolves. So what we are seeing nowadays is more, evolution of developer portal into either internal developer portals for like organization use within organization, possibly with even other assets than APIs. And then external developer portals for like productizing APIs to external consumers with marketing assets, etc. So I would say, that sort of can go into two different directions. And those different directions and use cases require also different, features and capabilities of developer portals. So if you are creating an external facing site, you probably want to heavily customize it, apply some branding, etc. But if you're creating an internal facing site, internal facing developer portal, there are different sets of capabilities that you want to prioritize over those external facing portals. And we continue to invest in both sets of capabilities, both use cases. One example is, we actually just released a preview of a integration of WordPress. So if you require, very deep customizations that, our developer portal does not support out of the box, you can now integrate WordPress site with API management to create a developer portal of WordPress. So that gives you, for example, some functionality such as localization. And of course, you can use the whole power of all the plugins of WordPress. We also just released logs for developer portals. So you can track, the evolution of your API system from the developer portal perspective and like consumer's perspective. See when consumers log into the developer portal, which APIs they access, do they actually try out the test console, etc. So, a lot of going on in the realm of the developer portal. And like personally, we don't see that being deprioritized at all. I think it's just an evolution of how customers understand and what set of features customers need from the dev portal.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and dev portal, it's not only just the site; it's also the whole stack. How you productize your APIs, give consumers self-serve access to onboard to APIs, and monitor that, etc.
Yeah, so I always used to say how a customer want to surface all of these APIs to the outside world, right? I might have a plethora of APIs, but I want to group it, surface it, only a part of it, and these kind of things. I have one last question that maybe is a complex question, so I don't know who wants to pick it up. I ask it. Yes, I'm shaking just only thinking about this question. So the question is like, is there a feature that you would love to develop, but you never see the light?
We never saw what? I'm sorry.
Is there a feature or something that you would love to develop, but then it didn't go for whatever reason, the market, or it was too complex, it's not feasible, was not making sense? I know it's a complex question. We can have a safe word like banana. If you say banana, we just skip it.
Shut off the recording.
Yeah, I guess each of us has an opinion. And Mike, you said you wanted to run.
Yeah,
do you have any feature?
I'll drop in 2 minutes. So personally, I think I have too many of these features. We all know, I think, what an ideal product could look like. Maybe our understanding of an ideal product is so different by every person, but given the resources that we have and any business on the planet has, given some limited resources, you have to prioritize the roadmap, and we do prioritize the roadmap, taking into account, customer feedback, feature requests, adoption blockers, as well as more visionary investments that are not necessarily required by customers today, but will be required in the future. So we have to balance everything. And it happens that some of the things that are deprioritized, right? You just don't have resources and time and energy or return on investment to pursue those things.
Yeah.
And that's the case of any business on the planet, and also personal life. So I would say there's too many of these features, and it's also important to get features right from the get-go, right? So if you implement a certain feature, we rarely have time to go back to it and re-implement it from scratch, right? It's a big investment. So we also invest a lot of time and energy into making sure that we build stuff correctly from scratch, rather than push something out and go back and fix it later. So that was my diplomatic question.
Very PM.
You're ready
answer.
for politics.
Yeah.
So now it's up to Max. Concrete example, Max.
So thank you for
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
But maybe Max has one.
Yes.
I have a
name
couple.
something.
Good. We are just a little group now. Go ahead.
Feature that I would want to implement but never had time. So it's not customer facing feature, but I really thinking of something like I'm thinking how we can use machine learning and AI to, because scale is large, certain things really hard to detect. So using machine learning and I guess AI might not be accurate here, but just machine learning and big data processing to be able to understand anomalies in the product and improve the quality by using those analysis of data without asking directly, is this thing is wrong, but asking, what is wrong? Is anything wrong? And be able to get this answer from the whatever machine learning analysis we can
Funny
do.
fact that this morning before coming here, I was at the customer close to in Brussels. We are streaming from Brussels, and we were exactly talking about the same thing. So it's lovely. It's, even if it's not a customer face, it's lovely to hear how the engineering team is also in this case very close to the needs or requirements of some customers.
But I was explaining it to you, and now I understand it can be perfectly customer facing feature. Customers, we expose them telemetry about the traffic. Why not we tell them something might be wrong with their backend.
But I think it really makes sense, because machine learning, typically the more scale you have, the better results you get as well from these kind of things, right?
Yeah, just show you the anomaly or something like that. So this is something I would love to see in our product, but
so what are your weekend plans, Max?
Yeah, sure. Weekend hackathon. Okay, guys, I'm dropping again as well. Tom, maybe you can share your thoughts about what you.
Thank you
very much, Max.
Thank you so much, Maxime, and congratulations for these last 10 years again.
Yeah.
Thanks. Congrats. See you.
Yeah, I somehow always come up with ideas that I think make sense, and then they tell me nobody's asking for this. So
which one? Sorry,
I have a couple, but that's typically the answer. So, for example, when I joined, I had one idea. I thought this would be major. Like I've been an Azure Event Grid fan since day one. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I know.
And a very big problem. Well. So for the people that do not know, you basically push a lot of events, and they have this built-in broker where you can do subscriptions and filters. It's basically Azure Service Bus, but for events without queuing, I would say, but it's a push model instead of pull. So I figured I loved using that at customers for their internal events. But imagine as a customer, creating an order which happens asynchronous through an API instead of pulling for API. Why do you not take these internal events and make them accessible to your customers? So in theory, you can do that, because event hubs, you need to create a subscription, the destination. If the destination has like a
Event grid, you mean?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
so you could just say this is the endpoint to push to. The problem is, however, when you want to create that subscription, that means you need to do it on an Azure resource. That is part of your subscription, so your customers cannot do that. So what if we create an event gateway, for example, where with your same subscription and API management that has access to an API, you can create like these subscriptions for events, and then you automatically get these events, and we would create these subscriptions for you. So instead of only doing ingress, you would have egress for events. But apparently nobody's asking for it. So
maybe,
I think,
or maybe, it's not that intuitive to formulate. You see, so maybe there are people who would be interested.
which you can definitely achieve today, but it's not like
then you have more to do on your own.
Yes, and I remember, I think you had a customer in the past that wanted to do this scenario and built their own kind of provider on top of Event Grid.
I will play politics as well in this.
So
no, but I also think that we discussed this years ago. It's a very interesting use cases, but it's a niche use case. So,
exactly.
like if you look at it over the 10 years, how companies adopt REST API, or if you want JSON over HTTP API to be very politically correct again, it took a lot of times, and the maturity is very different depending on customer by customer. So I understand why, for example, this was really like maybe nice to have, but too niche.
It requires too much investment
for
nobody asking for it. Yes. And then something I've been thinking a lot about recently is we as a company have a goal to reduce our environmental impact. There's more companies that have it. The EU now have a regulation that next year big companies need to report their sustainability impact. But the next step is going to be companies that want to reduce that. So I've been thinking, is that something we should do? Like help customers shift the traffic based on which region is green towards the back end, or give some context properties so you can turn off the logging to make sure you use less energy. But I think people are thinking too much about AI nowadays that it's not top of mind at the moment. So,
but actually, that's kind of interesting still. I mean, the planet would thank you for this.
Yes, but
but but I think that could indeed.
But at the end,
maybe it's too early at this stage. But I think it would
not
probably.
Top of mind.
That's
okay. So we are, I think, at the end of our event. So it's 1 hour. So we'll close very soon. I would like to say a big thank you to Microsoft Belgium and Microsoft Corp in general that participate to this special episode, especially Microsoft Belgium, because they are hosting here in Brussels in this very, very nice location. Tom, Vlad, Max, Mike, everyone who participate, everyone who collaborate before this episode. Well, that's for me.
Yeah, I think you said it all, Massimo. So same, of course. Thanks to everyone.
My pleasure.
And was a nice one.
So by the way,
in 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe we will have Tom in a new episode in the coming weeks. Why not?
Hopefully, of course. I was more talking about the next Thursday.
Okay, I'll be hopefully around in 10 years. So.
Hopefully, yes. Let's see. Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Time to close.
Yeah, thank everyone, and see you in the coming weeks on new episodes of APIM Hotrod. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.